runs central to the document. It also differs in essential details, for the rape is not an illusion but actually takes place on the origin of the world by a gang of ruler angels, and the progeny is humankind. In the reality of the rulers are real troublemakers who create, but who will eventually perish in ignorance and darkness. Because of the reality of the authorities, inspired by the Spirit of the Father of Truth, the great messenger referring to the authorities of the darkness told us that our contest is not against flesh and blood, rather the authorities of the universe and the spirits of wickedness. I have sent you this because you inquire about the reality of the authorities. Their chief is blind. Because of his power and his ignorance and his arrogance, he said with his power, "I am God. There is no other but me." When he said this, he sinned against all. This speech rose up to incorruptibility. Then there was a voice that came forth from incorruptibility saying, "You are wrong, Samael." That is, God of the blind. His thoughts became blind, and having expelled his power, that is, the blasphemy he had spoken, he pursued it down the chaos and the abyss, his mother, at the instigation of Pistis Sophia. She established each of his offspring in conformity with his power, and after the pattern of the realms that are above, for by starting from the invisible world, the visible world was invented. As incorruptibility looked down into the region of the waters, her image appeared in the waters, and the authorities of the darkness became enamored of her. But they could not lay hold of that image which had appeared to them in the waters, because of their weakness, since beings that merely have soul cannot lay hold of those who have spirit. God speaks to the gods who are in this country when he arrives at these houses which are hidden and which contain the image of Osiris. This god cries to the hidden forms which are in them, and they hearken to the voice of this god, and then he passes them by. There are 16 gods here in mummified forms. The 4 Hetepiu gods, the 4 kings of the north, the 4 spirits, and the 4 kings of the south, for a total of 16 forms of Osiris, mummified. The serpent Ash-Hara'u says, "The majesty of this great God says to the kings of the south, to the Heteptiu, to the kings of the north, and to the spirits who are in this city, may your royal state and condition be with you. May you receive your white crowns, and you Hetepiu, may you receive your offerings, and you kings of the north, may you receive your red crowns, and you spirits, may you receive your appointed rights. Avenge you me in this land, and hack in pieces the serpent Apep. Oh, you kings of the south, you Heteptiu, you kings of the north, and you spirits who dwell in this land. Those who are in this picture stand up in their places, and they hear the voice of the great God."
A lawyer said, "I pray to Jesus. Tell, who is this Allah you speak about? Where are his priests, his temples, and his shrines?" And Jesus said, "The Allah I speak about is everywhere. He cannot be compassed with walls nor hedged about with bounds of any kind. All people worship Allah the One, but all the people see him not alike. The universal Allah is wisdom, will, and love. All men see not the triune Allah. One sees him as Allah of might, another as Allah of thought, another as Allah of love. A man's ideal is his God, and so as man unfolds, his God unfolds. Man's God today, tomorrow is not God. The nations of the earth see Allah from different points of view, and so he does not seem the same to everyone. Man names the part of Allah he sees, and this to him is all of Allah. And every nation sees a part of Allah, and every nation has a name for Allah. You Brahmins, who call him Power Brahma. In Egypt he is Thoth, and Zeus is his name in Greece. Yahweh or Jehovah is his Hebrew name. But everywhere he is the causeless cause, the rootless root, from which all things have grown.
Banish the darkness, teaching ye how to bring light in thy life. Seek ye, O men, to find the great pathway that leads to eternal life as a sun. Draw ye away from the veil of the darkness, seek to become a light in the world. Make of thyself a vessel for light, a focus for the sun of this space. Lift thou thine eyes to the cosmos, lift thou thine eyes to the light. Speak, in the words of the dweller, the chant that calls down the light. Sing thou the song of freedom, sing thou the song of the soul. Create the high vibration that will make thee one with the whole. Blend all thyself with the cosmos, grow into one with the light.
All right, everybody, welcome to another live stream. Today, we are giving our praises and our thanks to the Son God. We are giving our praises to the Son of Man, Jesus Christ, El Cristo Negro, Portobello, Maria de Santa de Muerte, the Black Madonna, and the Black Child. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. So today's show is about the metaphysics of faith. Okay, we're going to be breaking down what faith is on a basic level. We're not going to go too deep into it in this particular video because we have a lot of material to cover in just an hour and 30 minutes. So this is a public service. This is a Sunday service that we do every Sunday here from the Amara University. We do this to educate people on the Bible, on spirituality, and also how to improve their lives, right? Because if we can't improve our lives with knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, then what's the point? So what I'm going to do, let me just speak to everybody in the chat. I see we got King Keith. What's going on? Hope you're doing well today. Beasley Land, hope you're doing good. Hope you guys are enjoying your Sunday. So also, if you are catching my replay, I want to send you a ton of love and positive energy, love and light, if you're catching my replay, because most people are going to catch the replay anyway. So now that we went through that, we're going to start with the analogy of the mustard seed. All right. So let me just share my screen real quick to give you guys a visual of what I'm talking about. So this is a mustard seed. It is so small that it can literally fit on the tip of your pinky. It is so small that if you were in a haystack of let's say you were in a yard, if you were in a forest, if you were anywhere and you dropped 1,000 mustard seeds, you would probably not be able to find any of them because they are so small. But just because something is small, just because something is appearing to be very unnoticeable, doesn't mean that it doesn't have power. Because the Dogon also have a tradition about a different seed that I'm going to be talking about today, which they liken to the tiny little star Sirius B. So if you guys don't know anything about the Dogon, you will get a little introduction to the Dogon tribe today. They are currently still active right now in West Africa, particularly in the country of Mali. They have had a tradition that goes back at least 3,000 years concerning the Sirius star system. And they compared one of the stars in that 3-star system to a seed. And so even though it's tiny, even though it's one of the tiniest stars, it is one of the most dense stars, and therefore it has a higher gravitational pull than stars that are much, much larger in the sky. It cannot be seen with the human eye. And so for decades, scientists have been trying to figure out, how did these so-called uneducated, unlearned, primitive peoples have such a detailed knowledge of the Sirius system? So the lesson and basically the gist of this particular broadcast is that faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. Faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. Faith the size of a mustard seed can move mountains. So we're going to give you a brief introduction to the Dogon. So let me get that video queued up so you guys can get a little more familiar with the Dogon. And then we're going to be looking at the movie El Cristo Negro, which is what we do every Sunday before we start the Gnostic gospel. And then we will pick a gospel or a book from the Gnostic Nag Hammadi library. And then we will conclude, and I will answer any questions that people may have towards the end. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get this video queued up. All right, this is a short video. Ooh, yeah, this is a short video. So this video is going to be about the Dogon's tribe encounter with aliens from Sirius. And this relates to our discussion about seeds, because the Dogon compared Sirius B to a seed, even though it cannot be seen with the human eye. So let me go ahead and share my screen. This short video will educate you, give you a quick but powerful overview of the Dogon tribe's knowledge and their encounter with aliens from Sirius, and also a little bit about their agricultural beliefs. And then we will get into El Cristo Negro, and then we will actually read some of the sayings of Jesus today. So go ahead and listen to this, and I will come back with the rest of my commentary.
The Sirius Mystery, originally written by Robert Temple. Let us take a look now at what the Dogon tribe have to tell us about the amphibious creatures who are credited with founding their civilization as well, and who seem to have come from Sirius. These creatures are credited with having descended in an ark which looked like the whirling of a jet as the ark descended. Before we come to the evidence, I should say a little more about Sirius. About the middle of the last century, an astronomer was looking rather hard at Sirius over a period of time and got annoyed because it wasn't sitting still. It was wobbling. He had a difficult time figuring this out. He finally concluded
that an extremely heavy and massive star going around Sirius could make it wobble that way. The only trouble was that there wasn't any large star going around Sirius. Instead, there turned out to be a tiny little thing going around it every 50 years. And so, Sirius came to be called Sirius A, and the little tiny thing became Sirius B. Sirius B was at that time unique in the universe as far as anyone knew. Over 100 of these things have now actually been seen, scattered around the sky, and there are many thousands more which we cannot see even through our modern telescopes because they are so tiny and their light so feeble. They are called white dwarfs. White dwarfs are strange because although they are feeble, they are strong. They do not give out much light, but they are fantastically powerful gravitationally. On a white dwarf, we would not even be a fraction of an inch high. We would be flat, pulled in by the gravity. You see, the big star that was necessary to make Sirius A wobble turned out to be a little thing. But it still had to be as massive and heavy as an ordinary star of much more enormous size. It is, in short, a star so dense and closely packed that it is not even made out of regular matter. It is made out of what is called degenerate matter or superdense matter, where the atoms are pressed together and the electrons squashed. The matter is so heavy that it cannot be thought of in any familiar terms. There is nothing in our solar system to our knowledge comparable to this stuff. It is even claimed by some astronomers that the Sirius system has a Sirius C or a third star. Fox claimed to see it in 1920 and in 1926, 1928, and 1929. It was supposedly seen by Van der Bos, Finson, and others at the Union Observatory. Then, for several years, when it should have been seen, it was not. Zagar and Balad said it was there because there were wobbles that pointed to it, so perhaps it's there and perhaps it isn't. Now we see that the Sirius system is rather interesting and complicated. Only in this century have we advanced towards knowing about degenerate matter and understanding white dwarfs through our researches into nuclear physics. So we would be surprised, would we not, if someone without our modern science had known as much about the Sirius system as we do. In a very sensible chapter called Possible Consequences of Direct Contact, Sagan says, while difficult for us to reconstruct from a distance of millions of years, would have been much clearer to a technical civilization greatly in advance of the present one on Earth, which visited us every 100,000 years or so to see if anything of interest was happening lately. Some 25 million years ago, a galactic survey ship on a routine visit to the third planet of a relatively common G-dwarf star, our Sun, may have noted an interesting and promising evolutionary development. The information would have been filtered at the speed of light, slowly through the galaxy, and a rotation would have been made in some central information repository, perhaps at the galactic center. The Dogon describes Sirius B as the infinitely tiny. As we know, Sirius B is a white dwarf and the tiniest form of visible star in the universe. But what is really the most amazing of all the Dogon statements is this: the star, which is considered to be the smallest thing in the sky, is also the heaviest. Digitaria is the smallest thing there is. It is the heaviest star. It consists of a metal called sagala, which is a little brighter than iron and so heavy that all earthly beings combined cannot lift it. In effect, the star weighs the equivalent of all the seeds, or of all the iron of the earth. Sirius B is in reality made of a super dense matter of a kind which exists nowhere on Earth. All this forms the most sacred and most secret tradition known to the Dogon, the basis of their religion and their lives. Connected with all this are statements that they make about the existence of a third star in the Sirius system, which they call the Emaya star, which, in comparing it to Digitaria, they say is 4 times as light in weight and travels along a greater trajectory in the same direction and in the same time as it, 50 years. Their respective positions are such that the angle of their radii is at right angles. This last star has a satellite, indicating that the Dogon appreciate that bodies, rather than stars, are satellites of stars. Of Emaya itself, they say, it is the sun of women, a little sun. In fact, it is accompanied by a satellite which is called the Star of Women, as the guide of the Emaya.
All right, so that was just a quick overview of the Dogon's ancient knowledge of the Sirius system. And again, astrologers or astronomers rather, when they first observed what's going on before 1492, salute. When they were first observing Sirius, remember that Sirius A is the brightest star in the sky. It is even brighter than Polaris, right? So with it being so bright, with it giving off so much light, for it to be wobbling would mean that there has to be a star pulling on Sirius. So astronomers were looking for this huge, probably like a supernova level star, but they didn't see anything. However, the Dogon already had a detailed knowledge of the weight of Sirius, the trajectory that it would take, as well as its orbital period of 50 years. So it takes Sirius B 50 years to orbit Sirius A, and Sirius C also takes 50 years. The difference is Sirius C is about 3 to 4 times lighter than Sirius B. So literally, we don't have any stars like Sirius B or C in our solar system. And the knowledge that the Dogon had is still alive today. These people are still in Africa. And they shared their knowledge with other cultures as well, including the ancient Egyptians, who may have shared it with some of the ancient Americans, the Mayans, the Olmecs, etc. Cool. Okay, so now that we got that out the way, let's go ahead and get into El Cristo Negro. So let me go ahead and pull up El Cristo Negro. This is a full film. We're never going to be able to finish it in one particular broadcast. In addition, this film is also in Spanish. So what I'm going to do is, I think they only have Spanish captions. So even though the captions are going to be in Spanish, just pay attention to the imagery. I will translate for you guys because I can speak Spanish. Okay, but just try to get the gist of this movie. This movie is called Cristo Negro. And the reason that this name, El Cristo Negro, is so popular is because it means the Black Christ. All right, Negro means black in Spanish. And Cristo is how they translate the name Christ into the Spanish languages. So this idea of a Black Jesus predates modern Christianity. There's always been a Black savior sent back to help free and liberate the minds of people all over the world. This tradition is found in India. This tradition is found in the Americas.
This tradition is also found in the Dogon tradition. So even in the Mayan and Olmec traditions, right, the Native Americans also have a tradition of a Christ-like figure. All right, and a lot of their gods are also Black. So with that in mind, we're going to watch a little bit of Cristo Negro. There will be Spanish subtitles, but I will translate for you guys as we watch maybe 5 minutes or so. Let me also drop the link to the complete film because we play this film every Sunday. I would encourage you to watch it in its entirety, but you can get the gist of it from what I'm going to show you today. So let me go ahead and skip forward a little bit, get past the credits. Okay, here we go.
Ahí hay agua. ¿Tienes sed?
No, puedo esperar. Además se puede ver el capataz.
Oye, tú, ¿quién te permitió abandonar tu sitio? ¡Vuelve al trabajo! ¿No me oyes? Toma.
No le pegue más.
Para que no te metas donde no te llaman. ¡Quieto! ¡Vamos a trabajar todos! Ya te lo había advertido. Con esta gente no hay más procedimientos que este. ¡De la derecha, más fuerte! Ya falta poco para llegar.
El padre Braulio se llevará una sorpresa.
Espero que sí.
¿Puedo dársela yo?
Conforme tú se la darás.
Gracias, papaíto. Ya estoy deseando llegar. ¡Para, papá! Parece muerto.
No, estará dormido. Tú, despierta. Verás.
¿Por qué tienes miedo?
No te asustes. No vamos a hacerte nada malo. ¿De dónde eres? ¿Vives cerca? ¿A dónde ibas?
¿Dónde están tus padres? ¿Por qué no se lo llevamos al padre Braulio? El padre Braulio es muy bueno. Cuida de los niños, les da juguetes, muchos juguetes. Anda, ven.
Ya está. ¿Y ahora ya no vendrán los demonios al poblado?
Mientras tengáis fe y respetéis esa cruz, los malos espíritus se mantendrán siempre alejados de vosotros.
¡Padre Braulio!
¡Padre Braulio!
¡Mary! ¡Jackson! ¡Ah! ¡Ya voy! ¡Ven, Mumbo! ¡Jackson! ¡Mary! ¡Qué alegría veros por aquí!
Hola, padre.
Padre Braulio.
Hacía tiempo que no discutía con nadie y me he acordado de usted.
¿Qué barbaridades vendrás a decirme ahora?
¿A que no acierta lo que le traemos? Papá?
Caramba, ¿qué será? Me tenéis intrigado. Déjame que piense.
Es algo para la iglesia.
Oh, ya sé, una imagen.
No, no es eso. Es una cosa que hace tan...
Es posible. Una campana con la falta que nos hace.
¿A que está otra vez con el aceite? ¿No lo decía yo? ¿No te dije que no tocaras eso?
No le riñas. Pobrecillo. ¿Quién es?
No lo sé. Lo hemos encontrado en el camino y parecía estar abandonado.
Vamos a ver. ¿Cómo te llamas?
Nicoa.
¿Tienes familia? ¿Te gustaría quedarte aquí?
Sí. Sí me gustaría.
Sí. Mumbo,
Dígame.
¿no me has dicho que te aburrías solo en tu choza? Pues ya tienes entretenimiento.
¿Estás contenta?
Desde
Sí.
ahora cuidarás de mi coa. Anda, llévatelo y dale algo de comer.
Si usted lo ordena, padre, vamos.
Me apostaría cualquier cosa que estés escapado de alguna plantación.
No me extrañaría nada sabiendo cómo los tratáis.
Ya empezamos, padre. En mi plantación siempre he procurado darles un trato justo. Pero a veces créame que...
Hay que tratarlos como bestias, ¿no es cierto?
Bueno, vamos a desembalar la campana, ¿eh, padre?
Sí, será mejor.
Esta es mi casa. ¿Te gusta? Y esa es mi cama. La tuya la pondremos aquí. Ahí tienes algo para comer. Cuando comas puedes dormir un rato. Yo he de ir a la iglesia a trabajar.
Me gustaría trabajar contigo.
Habrá que pedirle permiso al padre. Yo se lo diré.
Es bueno ese señor de las barbas, ¿verdad?
Sí, muy bueno. Para él todos somos sus hijos.
Qué pena que sea blanco.
Hay que decirle a todo que sí, aunque no lo entiendas.
¿Por qué?
Él habla de Dios y de cosas muy difíciles.
¿Y tú? ¿Tampoco lo entiendes?
Yo sí, pero tú eres aún muy pequeño para entenderlo.
Entonces no me dará trabajo.
Es posible. Tengo una idea.
Mira, ya viene, ya viene.
Pronto. Baja y espera mi señal.
Adiós, hijo.
Buenas tardes, padre Braulio.
¿Cómo va eso, Mumbo?
Casi terminado.
Bien, mañana colocaremos la campana.
Hará falta más gente para subirla.
Ya nos arreglaremos con los que hay.
Oye, señor Santo, te pido que me ayudes a encontrar trabajo en esta iglesia. Sé que el padre Braulio, que es muy bueno, me lo concederá. Amén. Oye, señor Santo, te pido que me ayudes a encontrar trabajo en esta iglesia. Sé que el padre Braulio, que es muy bueno, me lo concederá. Amén.
¿Quién te ha enseñado a rogar a los santos? Ah, con qué Mumbo, ¿eh?
¿Qué te pasa, Micoa? ¿Por qué no duermes? ¿Qué tienes ahí?
Nada. No es nada.
Anda, duerme, que mañana hay que...
All right, so we watched like maybe 7 or 8 minutes of it. This movie is an hour and 20 minutes. So I would encourage you to watch the rest of it. I usually watch this movie once a month, maybe, you know what I'm saying? Because I can speak Spanish, I can read it. You know, it's not hard for me to watch it. So if you want me to give you the gist of it, I'll just give you the short version of it to make a long story short. There was a group of black people, black workers, basically slaves, and they were working, they were pushing this cart, they were moving, I believe, sugar or some sort of coffee or some other sort of crop. And one of the owners started beating up one of the workers, and he actually shot his father in front of him. And then he also hit the boy as well, but the boy never died. He was still alive. He ended up coming back to life. That's when you see the white man and the little girl pull up, and they find him, and they thought he was dead. And he actually woke back up. He wasn't dead. He was still breathing. So they woke him up, and then he's immediately in shock still because he just saw his father get shot, and he thought he was dead, but he just kind of passed out for a minute, and then he woke up and he saw this white man and this little white girl standing over him, and they're telling him to wake up, wake up. And it reminds one of the apocalypse of Adam, which was on his deathbed when he said to his son Seth, Arise, Adam, from the sleep of death, and hear about the eternal beings and from whom life has come, and from Eve, your wife, whom I created. So, yeah, that's a little bit from the revelation of Adam, what I'm alluding to. But remember, Adam is the first Christ. Christ is the second Adam. And this El Cristo Negro is centered around a young boy who I believe is like 7 or 8 years old. He's been taken away from his family and he's been forced to live with this white man, been forced to basically be in exile and continue working. So that's basically where we left it off. He had moved into this house. The owner, he said to the owner, "It's a shame that you're white." And he said, "Yeah, I know, but you wouldn't understand because you're too young to comprehend." So, yeah, you can see them lifting up the cross. The workers and the white people work together for the cause to bring this cross there. Because remember, they're going to crucify, eventually, they're going to crucify El Cristo Negro. So that's a little bit of that story. I hope you guys enjoyed that. I always love watching things in Spanish anyway. And now we're going to connect this with Haiti real quick because I did a documentary on Haiti not too long ago. And there's a certain part of it that talks about lynching in Haiti, right? And we're not talking about modern lynching. We're talking all the way back into, is my microphone plugged in? I'm sorry, let me plug my microphone in. I didn't even know it got unplugged. Okay, we have my mic plugged in. Let me switch microphones real quick. I was using my Mac microphone, but now I'm using my Yeti. All right, so hopefully this is much better for you if you're catching the replay, or if you're watching it live, please hit that like button. Please share this video out. If you're on Facebook, we see you guys in the chat. Keep the discussion going. Keep the conversation going. All right, so there's a certain part of my Haiti documentary that I think relates to this El Cristo Negro tradition. So I'm going to actually find the correct part. Give me 1 second because I know the exact timestamp. I'm going to find it. So let me go back a little bit. Let me see. One second, you guys. Usually I can find timestamps by images. Here we go. All right, so we're going to start it here. We're going to just play a couple minutes of my documentary from Haiti. I'm going to drop the link to the timestamp that I'm talking about today. I'm at the 16-minute and 20 mark from my 1804 Haiti Revolution documentary. I also put the link in the chat for everybody catching the replay. Use it as a way to avoid confronting the ideological and political significance of the ideals and ideas it generated. Understanding the Haitian Revolution also requires avoiding using racial designations, white, mulatto, black, as categories that can generate explanations rather than as social artifacts that demand them. Interpretations of individual and collective action during the revolution that are based primarily on racial or class categories often fail to provide a complete or coherent picture of how and why the people acted as they did. The communities of African descent who were not enslaved, for instance, were enormously diverse, both socially and politically. While many within them were of mixed European and African ancestry, not all were, and the common use of the term mulatto to describe them is misleading. Clearly, racial identification was a crucial part of the revolution, and along with economic, social, and cultural factors, influenced how individuals and groups acted and responded to one another. At the same time, complicated ideological and political forces often divided groups that we might be tempted to see as unified by race. Many of the central protagonists of the Haitian Revolution, unlike those of the other Atlantic revolutions of the period, left behind few written traces of their political thought. The major exception is Toussaint Louverture. Most of what we know about their actions and ideals comes from the writings of often quite hostile witnesses whose views about slavery and slaves profoundly influenced what they wrote. Many later historians have read such sources against the grain to tell eloquent stories of the silenced and the marginalized. Their work is an inspiration for my own attempt here to grasp a fleeting moment that is in many ways beyond us, to spur the imagination, as well as to invite response and revision. This is a story that deserves, and indeed demands, to be told and retold. The impact of the Haitian Revolution was enormous. As a unique example of successful Black revolution, it became a crucial part of the political, philosophical, and cultural events of the 18th and 19th centuries by creating a society in which all people of all colors were granted freedom and citizenship. The Haitian Revolution forever transformed the world. It was a central part of the destruction of slavery in the Americas, and therefore a crucial moment in the history of democracy, one that laid the foundation for the continuing struggles for human rights everywhere. In this sense, we are all descendants of the Haitian Revolution and responsible to these ancestors. Those Who Die, Chapter 13. It appeared suddenly, causing sharp pains in the eye sockets, feet, loins, and stomach. The patient's face became flushed. Tears flowed from his glazed eyes. The afflicted found it so difficult to breathe that they were afraid of suffocation. A thick, whitish yellow fluid covered the parched tongue, then the teeth, and soon changed into a black incrustation. The vomit was yellow from bile, and the feces and urine red. In the next phase, the patient could not drink. Wounds opened up, often with inflamed edges. Then the patient began to heal and feel rejuvenated. This improvement, however, only signaled the end. The nervous system collapsed, causing cramps and nosebleeds, while the pulse feebled. By then, the patient was already a corpse, putrid and horrible from the blood's deep composition. This, in the words of a French doctor writing in 1806, was what happened to a victim of yellow fever. Even as they secured victory over Louverture in 1802, French troops increasingly fell prey to another daunting enemy, disease. Watching their troops die around them, bewildered officers counted and reported the dead. Some cast about for an explanation for the virulence of the fever. Descourtils claimed that he had discovered an old black man who was grinding up the intestines of hastily buried fever victims to make sausages, and in doing so, purposely spread the contagion to those who remained healthy. The reality was more banal. Troops arriving in the Caribbean had always been vulnerable to such outbreaks, and many had forewarned Bonaparte of the dangers the scourge might pose to his mission to Saint Domingue. Aware of the danger, the council had hoped to avoid the worst by sending its troops early enough in the year to avoid the hot months when the plague was at its worst. He also mistakenly assumed that his troops would accomplish their mission quickly. Instead, the war against Louverture took many months of hard campaigning. By then, the season of fever had begun, and the disease showed a rare virulence, spreading rapidly as it fed off the large numbers of unacclimated troops on the island.
As 1802 wore on, the reinforcements that arrived to shore up Leclerc's mission were rapidly reduced by the plague. In mid-1803, 2 regiments of Polish troops disembarked in the town of Tiburon. 10 days later, more than half were dead of fever. They fell down as they walked, a planter noted, the blood rushing out of their nostrils, mouths, and eyes. By late 1802, an average of 100 men a day died. The disease killed the entire crew of a Swedish ship harbored in Le Cap, with the single exception of a young cabin boy, and the empty ship was put up for sale. If the First Council wants to have an army in Saint-Domingue in the month of October, Leclerc wrote to the colonial minister Denis de Crès in June 1802, he must send one from the ports of France, for the ravages of the sicknesses here are beyond telling. He had lost 1,200 men during his first month in the colony, 1,800 in the next, and feared that he would lose 2,000 in the coming month. Of the tens of thousands who had arrived a few months before, there were only 10,000 European troops left who could still fight. Half of the officers in this army are dead from either battle or disease, he announced weeks later. Men passed through and disappeared like shadows. LaCroix recalled, "You developed a stoic indifference and separated yourself from those with whom you lived with less regret than you suffered in Europe when you learned of the light sickness of a friend." In one list of dead officers, Leclerc noted simply of one of them, "I didn't have time to get to know him." The deadly combination of yellow fever and an enemy who gave no quarter steadily undermined Bonaparte's plans for Saint-Domingue. As Leclerc wrote in early June, the blacks still fighting against him were increasingly audacious. In mid-July, there were still nighttime meetings in the northern plain, and even in Lake Cap itself, animated by conspirators planning the massacre of the Europeans. With resistance continuing, he found himself in a bind. In order to keep his mission afloat, he had to defer, and indeed contradict, its ultimate goal, the destruction of the Black Army. With his own army becoming smaller and weaker, Leclerc had to depend on officers like Dessalines and Cristo and the colonial troops they commanded to fight the insurgents in the colony. "You order me to send the black generals to Europe," he wrote to Bonaparte in late August, but this wasn't possible, as he was using them to stop the revolts that in some areas had reached alarming proportions. His dependence on them was a financial drain. Leclerc complained to Bonaparte that he had to pay the salaries of 3,000 such officers and 12,000 colonial troops, but it was also a political liability. The more Leclerc depended on the colonial troops, the more he broadcast his weakness, and the loyalty of these troops was, as the general understood, quite fragile. He reported in July that, suspecting a revolt brewing among some colonial troops, he had shot several of the leaders. And although he claimed to be the master of Dessalines' spirit, he realized that Dessalines and other black officers were watching for an opportunity to turn against him. He comforted himself with the conclusion that they would not have the courage to do so. "They all hate one another," Leclerc claimed, "and know I will destroy them one by one." They were, furthermore, afraid to measure themselves against the man who destroyed their chief, Louverture. "The blacks are not brave," Leclerc concluded, "and this war has scared them." In fact, the black officers serving Leclerc were the main reason his army survived as long as it did. Dessalines was as fearsome an enemy of his former comrades as he had once been of the French. In early August, he led a successful attack against the insurgent band led by Micaiah and brought back women and children and prisoners. I had a few hung and others shot, Dessalines reported. He hoped that in 10 years, the people of the region would still remember the lesson. In another letter, Dessalines congratulated himself on the desolation and terror he had wrought. One French officer noted the marvels the black general had performed in capturing hundreds of guns and ridding the country of more than 100 incorrigible rascals. Leclerc similarly praised Dessalines as the butcher of the blacks, noting that he was using him to execute all the most odious measures he was enforcing. Another white officer went so far as to call him a god. As he had been under Louverture, Dessalines held the position of inspector of agriculture and punished rebellious plantation workers in the areas under his control swiftly and fiercely. Even if his exemplary justice was part of a broader ploy to trick the French into trusting him so that he could ultimately win the final battle for independence, this was certainly no consolation for those who were his victims during this period. Finding it impossible to fulfill Bonaparte's orders to dismantle the colonial army, Leclerc sought out to carry out another aspect of the First Consul's plan, the disarmament of the general population. He initiated the process in the West in June 1802, placing it in Dessalines' hands, and soon extended the project to the South and eventually the North, collecting hundreds of rifles. According to Descourtils, Dessalines took advantage of his control of the disarmament process to undermine it, secretly returning to their owners the very weapons he confiscated publicly, and stocking up on ammunition in preparation for the time he rebelled again. The process of taking weapons away, however, confirmed the suspicions many had about the intentions of the French. Both Sonthonax and Louverture had warned that the rifle was the guarantor of liberty in Saint-Domingue. The disarmament process, meant to destroy the population's capacity to defend itself, backfired. It incited uprisings in several parts of the colony, including Portapi and the island of Tortuga, and helped to propel a series of defections among the colonial troops in the north. Calido Sansoshi re-emerged as one of the revolt's major leaders. During the month of June, he had submitted to the French. In early July, however, Leclerc, suspected that Sansoshi was preparing a new rebellion, ordered his arrest. Before the French could get their hands on him, he defected with many of his troops and attacked a French camp. Along with leaders such as Valmerha and Micaiah, he soon controlled much of the mountainous territory of the northern province, brilliantly repulsing French attacks sent against him. The insurrection seems to be gaining more and more solidity, wrote one French officer in late July. The areas that used to be quiet are now in insurrection. The brigands were burning plantations, mounting ambushes and barricading the roads, and when confronted by French forces, they retreat as they burn. Many lower-ranking officers from the colonial army were seen heading with their new weapons to areas controlled by rebel leaders. French officers sought to terrorize the rebels into submission, giving the order to execute 5 Negroes who had been stopped by a patrol with weapons and bayonets. One officer announced, "It is only through terrible examples that we will succeed in disarming the country and give this important colony back its splendor and its prosperity. I give you permission to hang any rebel or malcontent."
He recommended that such examples be made of officers suspected of being sympathetic to the rebels, as well as managers and drivers on the plantations.
I've got a problem that I'm pretty sure you
Gotta add real quick. Hold on 1 second.
They are the ones who are behind the rebellions and who encourage the Negroes to revolt, he insisted. The French should show no mercy today and should punish crimes, including those committed earlier during the war, with the rope, the form of torture that frightens the Negroes. Over time, the French increasingly practiced such summary justice against black troops, often distinguishing little between soldiers who had remained loyal to them and those who had risen in revolt. Naturally, French brutality ultimately made the decision to change sides easier for those who had remained loyal. Fearing the worst, the French helped bring it about by acting the part of an army bent on destruction. James Stephen had predicted that once the true design of the French mission was unmasked, there would be no stopping the resistance against it. The disarmament alarmed many in Saint-Domingue, and news arriving in the colony from across the Atlantic and from other parts of the Caribbean soon confirmed their fears about Leclerc's ultimate mission. The transatlantic slave trade will once again be open to French ships. An explanation attached to the law made clear that the pro-slavery planters of Paris had succeeded in winning over Bonaparte. We know how the illusions of liberty and equality were propagated in these far-off countries, where the remarkable differences between men who are civilized and those who are not, and the difference in climate, colors, and habits, and most important, the security of European families inevitably require great differences in the civil and political state of people.
There we go. There we go. So that was a little bit of my Haiti documentary. The reason that came to mind as I'm telling the story of El Cristo Negro is because when they tried to disarm the Haitian army, right, and basically bring the French back in, they made it a point to lynch people publicly. They made it a point. So that was how they would show this is what's going to happen if you get out of line. You know, and they did the same thing right here in the United States. They did the same thing all over Brazil, all over Jamaica, all over the Caribbean, Barbados. They're still lynching people right now. So it is a point to show people publicly, hey, if you get out of line, if you're not a good Negro, if you start to be too smart and too intelligent and too wise and too rebellious and too strong and too aggressive and too smart, if you learn how to read, if you learn how to write, if you don't want to fit into society, then you can be lynched. So you can be lynched on a physical level. But I think the worst lynching, from my vantage point, is to be lynched on a mental and a psycho-spiritual level, because they can lynch your body, but at the end of the day, they can never lynch your spirit. So we are going to review the Gospel of Judas. Okay, so many people here may have never known that there is a Gospel of Judas. From the traditional Christian point of view, Judas is viewed as a betrayer. Remember, he is the one that sold Jesus for 30 pieces of silver. But the Gnostic Gospel of Judas was not released to the public, I believe, until the year 2006. So most people have never even heard the original story. So now we're going to go ahead and give you guys the Gospel of Judas. I put a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of inflection into my voice. I had to really pull out a different part of myself to pull off this particular narration. But it's a powerful narration. I think you guys will definitely enjoy it. I know I enjoyed it. It did very well on the Amin Ra channel. I believe the Gospel of Judas, let me see. The Gospel of Judas is at 1,700 views. So it's doing very well. Let me give you guys the link to the Gospel of Judas, so you can watch it in its entirety.
I don't know if I'm going to review it in its entirety because I have some other things I might want to get into before my 30 minutes is up. I actually only have 27 minutes, but yeah, this video has 17K views. That's pretty good for this channel. I'm satisfied with that. Okay, so let's pull up the visual aid to the Gnostic Bible. The Gnostic Bible, let's see where that's at. The Gnostic Bible's at 2,800 views. It is an 11-hour and 41-minute performance. So yeah, if you ever at work and you're trying to get through the day, the Gnostic Bible is 11 hours. So if you need to get something done, if you're pulling a 12-hour shift, put on the Gnostic Bible while you're at work. By the time you get done listening to it, you will be off work. Okay, step away from your mic a little. Okay. All right, I'll step away. Hopefully that's a little better. I'm going to turn my mic down a little bit because I'm not in the beat sector right now, so I don't really need to be that loud. All right, hopefully that's better. Do you go into the Arawak Taino people on that island? Yes. Yeah, we talk about the so-called ethnicities of the indigenous people on that island, which is called Hispaniola, which they later split into Haiti and the Dominican Republic. Yep, I got a lot of content about that on the main channel. All right, so we're going to pull up the Gospel of Judas. Hope you guys enjoy this. I have the timestamp actually, so hour 28. All right, go ahead and listen to this.
This audio presentation is read and voiced by Shakim Ra. It is provided to the public by Amen Ra University. The Gospel according to Judas, from the Gnostic Bible, Gnostic text of mystical wisdom from the ancient and medieval world. The Gospel of Judas is a non-canonical Gnostic gospel. The content consists of conversations between Jesus and Judas Iscariot. Given that it includes late 2nd century theology, it is widely thought to have been composed in the 2nd century prior to 180 AD by Gnostic Christians rather than the historic Judas himself. The only copy of it known to exist is a Coptic language text that has been carbon dated to 280 AD, plus or minus 60 years. It has been suggested that the text derives from an earlier manuscript in the Greek language. An English translation was first published in early 2006 by the National Geographic Society. In contrast to the canonical Gospels, which paint Judas as a betrayer who delivered Jesus to the authorities for crucifixion in exchange for money, the Gospel of Judas portrays Judas's actions as done in obedience to instructions given to him by Jesus. It asserts that the other disciples had not learned the true gospel, which Jesus taught only to Judas, the sole follower belonging to the holy generation among the disciples. A leather-bound Coptic language papyrus document surfaced during the 1970s near Beni Massar, Egypt. It was named Codex Chakos by its penultimate owner, antiquities dealer Frida Nussberger Chakos, in honor of her father, Damaratos Chakos. The antiquities dealer became concerned with the manuscript's deteriorating condition and transferred possession to the Maecenas Foundation for Ancient Art in Basel, Switzerland in the year 2000 to oversee its preservation, translation, and hopeful sale. On April 6, 2006, the National Geographic Society in the U.S. published the first translation of the text from Coptic to English and showed some of the papyrus pages for the very first time. The Gospel of Judas consists of 16 chapters, which document Jesus' teaching about spiritual matters and cosmology. According to the text, Judas is the only one of Jesus' disciples who accurately understands the words of his master. This gospel contains few narrative elements. Essentially, the gospel records how Judas was taught by Jesus the true meaning of his message. The gospel contains ideas which contradicted the doctrine of the early church. The author says that God is essentially a, quote, luminous cloud of light who exists in an imperishable realm. Adamus, the spiritual father of all humanity, was created in God's image and dwelt in the imperishable realm. At the beginning of time, God created a group of angels and lower gods. 12 angels were willed to come into being to rule over chaos and the underworld. The angels of creation were tasked with creating a physical body for Adamus, which became known as the first man Adam, or Atum. Gradually, humanity began to forget its divine origins, and some of Adam's descendants, Cain and Abel, became embroiled in the world's first murder. Many humans came to think that the imperfect physical universe was the totality of creation, losing their knowledge of God and the imperishable realm. The Gospel of Judas. This is the secret message of judgment Jesus spoke with Judas Iscariot over a period of 8 days, 3 days before he celebrated Passover. When he appeared on earth, he did signs and great wonders for the salvation of humanity. Some walked in the way of righteousness, but others walked in their transgression. So the 12 disciples were called. He started to tell them about the mysteries beyond the world and what would happen at the end. Often, he didn't reveal himself to his disciples, but you'd find him in their midst as a child. One day, he was with his disciples in Judea. He found them sitting together, practicing their piety. When he came up to his disciples sitting together praying over the bread, he laughed. The disciples said to him, "Master, why are you laughing over our prayers? What have we done? This is what's right." He answered and said to them, "I'm not laughing at you. You're not doing this because you want to, but because through this, your God will be praised." They said, "Master, you are the Son of our God." Jesus said to them, "How do you know me? Truly, I say to you, no generation of the people among you will know me." When his disciples heard this, they started to get angry and furious and started to curse him in their hearts. But when Jesus noticed their ignorance, he said to them, "Why are you letting your anger trouble you? Has your God within you and his stars become angry with your souls? If any of you is strong enough among humans to bring out the perfect humanity, stand up and face me." All of them said, "We're strong enough," but their spirits weren't brave enough to stand before him. All except one, Judas Iscariot. He was able to stand before him, but he couldn't look him in the eye, so he looked away. Judas said to him, "I know who you are and where you've come from. You come from the immortal realm of Barbello, and I am not worthy to utter the name of the one who sent you." Then Jesus knowing that he was thinking about what's exalted, said to him, "Come away from the others, and I'll tell you the mysteries of the kingdom, not so that you'll go there, but you'll grieve much, because someone else will replace you to complete the 12 elements before their God." Judas said to him, "When will you tell me these things? And when will the great day of light dawn for the generation?" But when he said these things, Jesus left him. The next morning, he appeared to his disciples, and they said to him, "Master, where did you go? And what did you do when you left us?" Jesus said to them, "I went to another great and holy generation." His disciples said to him, "Lord, what generation is better and holier than us? That's not in these realms." Now, when Jesus heard this, he laughed. He said to them, "Why are you wondering in your hearts about the strong and holy generation? Truly, I say to you, no one born of this realm will see that generation. No army of angels from the stars will rule over it, and no person of mortal birth will be able to join it, because that generation doesn't come from the mortal realm, and all that has become of the generation of the people among them is from the generation of the great people." When his disciples heard these things, they were each troubled in their spirit. They couldn't say a thing. Another day, Jesus came up to them. They said to him, "Master, we've seen you in a dream, because we had great dreams last night." But Jesus said, "Why have you hidden yourselves?" And they said, "We saw a great house with a great altar in it, and 12 people. We'd say they were priests, and a name, and a crowd of people was waiting at the altar until the priest finished receiving the offerings. We kept waiting too." Jesus said, "What were they like?" And they said, "Some fast for 2 weeks, and others sacrifice their own children, others their wives, praising and humbling themselves among each other. Others sleep with men, others murder, yet others commit many sins and do criminal things." And the people standing before the altar invoked your name, and in all their sacrificing, they fill the altar with their offerings. When they said this, they fell silent because they were troubled. Jesus said to them, "Why are you troubled? Truly I say to you, all the priests standing before that altar invoke my name, and again I say to you, my name has been written on this house of the generations of the stars by the human generations, and they have shamefully planted fruitless trees in my name." Jesus said to them, "You're the ones receiving the offerings on the altar you have seen. That's the God you serve, and you're the 12 people you've seen. And the animals you saw brought in to be sacrificed are the crowd you lead astray before that altar. Your minister will stand up and use my name like that, and the generations of the pious will be loyal to him. After him, another person will present those who sleep around, and another of those who murder children, and another of those who sleep with men, and another of those who fast, and the rest of impurity, crime, and error, and those who say, 'We're equal to the angels.' They're the stars that finish everything. It's been said to the human generations, 'Look, God has accepted your sacrifice from the hands of the priest, that is, the minister of error. But the Lord who commands is the Lord over everything. On the last day, they'll be found guilty. Jesus said to them, "Stop sacrificing animals. You've offered them over the altar, over your stars, with your angels where they've already been completed." His disciples said to him, "Cleanse us from our sins that we've committed through the deceit of the angels." Jesus said to him, "It's not possible, nor can a fountain quench the fire of the entire inhabited world, nor can a city's well satisfy all the generations except the great, stable one. A single lamp won't illuminate all the realms except the second generation, nor can a baker feed all creation under heaven." And when the disciples heard these things, they said to him, "Master, help us and save us." Jesus said to them, "Stop struggling against me. Each one of you has his own star. I wasn't sent to the corruptible generation, but to the strong and incorruptible generation, because no enemy has ruled over that generation, nor any of the stars. Truly I say to you, the pillar of fire will fall quickly, and that generation won't be moved by the stars." And when Jesus said these things, he left, taking Judas Iscariot with him. He said to him, "The water on the exalted mountain is from on high. It didn't come from the earth, but it came to water God's paradise and produced the enduring fruit, because it won't corrupt that generation's walk of life, but it will exist for all eternity." Judas said to him, "Tell me, what kind of fruit does this generation have?" Jesus said, "The souls of every human generation will die. However, when these people have completed the time in the kingdom and the Spirit leaves them, their bodies will die, but their souls will live, and they'll be taken up." Judas said, "So what will the rest of the human generations do?" Jesus said, "It's not possible to sow on rock and harvest its fruit. In the same way, it's not possible to sow on the defiled race along with the perishable wisdom and the hand which created mortal humans, so that their souls may go up to the realms above. Truly I say to you, no ruler, angel, or power will be able to see the places that this great holy generation will see." When Jesus said this, he left. Judas said, "Master, just as you've listened to all of them, now listen to me too, because I've seen a great vision." But Jesus laughed when he heard this. He said to him, "Why are you all worked up, you 13th demon? But speak up, and I'll bear with you." Judas said to him, "In the vision I saw myself. The 12 disciples are stoning me and chasing me rapidly, and I also came to the place where I had followed you. I saw a house in this place, and my eyes couldn't measure its size. Great people surrounded it, and that house had a roof of greenery. In the middle of the house was a crowd. Master, take me in with these people." Jesus answered and said, "Your star has led you astray, Judas, and that no person of mortal birth is worthy to enter the house you have seen, because that place is reserved for those who are holy. Neither the sun nor the moon will rule there, nor the day, but those who are holy will always stand in the realm with the holy angels. Look, I've told you the mysteries of the kingdom, and I've taught you about the error of the stars and the error of the 12 realms." Judas said, "Master, surely my seed doesn't dominate the rulers, does it?" Jesus answered and said, "Come, let me tell you about the holy generation. Not so that you'll go there, but you'll grieve much when you see the kingdom and all its generation. When Judas heard this, he said to him, "What good has it done me that you've separated me from that generation?" Jesus answered and said, "You'll become the 13th and will be cursed by the other generations and will rule over them." Jesus said, "Come, Judas, and I'll teach you about the mysteries that no human will see, because there exists a great and boundless realm whose horizons no angelic generation has seen, in which is a great invisible spirit, which no angelic eye has ever seen, no heart has ever comprehended, and it's never been called by any name." And a luminous cloud appeared there, and he, the Spirit, said, "Let an angel come into being to attend me." And the great angel, the self-begotten, the God of the light, emerged from the cloud. And because of him, another 4 angels came into being from another cloud, and they attended the angelic self-begotten. And said the self-begotten, "Let a realm come into being." And it came into being just as he said. And he created the first luminary to rule over it. And he said, "Let angels come into being to serve it." And myriads without number came into being. And he said, "Let a luminous realm come into being, along with myriads of angels without number to offer service." And that's how he created the rest of the realms of light. And he made them to be ruled and created for them myriads of angels without number to assist them. And Adamus was in the first cloud of light that no angel could ever see among all those called God. And Adamus begat Seth in that place after the image of the Most High, and after the likeness of this angel. He made the incorruptible generation of Seth appear to the 12 androgynous luminaries. And then he made 72 luminaries appear in the incorruptible generation according to the Spirit's will. Then the 72 luminaries themselves made 360 luminaries appear in the incorruptible generation according to the Spirit's will, so that there be 5 for each. And the 12 realms of the 12 luminaries make up their Father, with 6 heavens for each realm. So there are 72 heavens for the 72 luminaries, and for each one of them 5 firmaments, for a total of 360 firmaments. They were given authority and a great army of angels without number for honor and service, along with virgin spirits too, for the honor and service of all the realms and the heavens with their firmament. Now the crowd of those immortals is called cosmos, that is, perishable by the Father, and the 72 luminaries with the self-begotten and his 72 realms. That's where the first human appeared with his incorruptible powers. In the realm that appeared with his generation is the cloud of knowledge and the angel who's called Elelith. After these things, Elelith said, "Let 12 angels come into being to rule over chaos and Hades." And look, from the cloud there appeared an angel whose face flashed with fire and whose likeness was defiled by blood. His name was Negro, which means rebel. Others call him Yaldabaoth, others call him Jaldabaoth. And another angel, Saklas, came from the cloud too. So Negro created 6 angels, and Saklas did too, to be assistants. They brought out 12 angels in the heavens, which each of them receiving a portion in the heaven. And the 12 rulers spoke with the 12 angels, saying, "Let each of you listen and heed. The first is Ya'oth, who's called the Good One. The second is Harmanathoth, the Eye of Fire. The third is Galila. The fourth is Yobel. The fifth is Adonais. These are the 5 who ruled over Hades and are the first over chaos." Then Saklas said to his angel, "Let's create a human being after the likeness and the image." And they fashioned Adam and his wife Eve, who in the cloud is called Life, because by this name all the generations seek him. and each of them calls her by their names. Now Saklas did not command her to give birth, except among the corrupted generations. And then the angel said to him, your life will last for a limited time with your children. Then Judas said to Jesus, how long can a person live? Jesus said, why are you amazed that the lifespans of Adam and his generation are limited in the place he's received his kingdom with his ruler? Judas said to Jesus, does the human spirit die? Jesus said, this is how it is. God commanded Michael to loan spirits to people so that they might serve. Then the Great One commanded Gabriel to give spirits to the great generation with no king, the spirit along with the soul. So the rest of the souls became light. And now you must seek the spirit within you, which you've made to live in this flesh from the angelic generations. Then God caused knowledge to be brought to Adam and to those with him, so that the kings of chaos and Hades might not rule over them. Then Judas said to Jesus, so what will those generations do? Jesus said, truly I say to you, the stars complete all these things. When Saklas completes the time span that's been determined for him, their first star will appear with the generations and they'll finish what's been said. Then they'll sleep around in my name, murder their children, bringing the generations and presenting them to Saklas. And after that, I will bring the 12 tribes of Israel from among these generations, and most of these generations will all serve Saklas, sinning in my name, and your star will rule over the 13th realm. And Jesus laughed. Judas said, Master, why are you laughing at me? Jesus answered and said, I am not laughing at you, but at the error of the stars, because these 6 stars go astray with these 5 warriors, and they'll all be destroyed along with their creations. Then Judas said to Jesus, what will those do who've been baptized in your name? Jesus said, truly I say to you, this baptism which they've received in my name will destroy the whole generation of the earthly Adam. Tomorrow they'll torture the one who bears me. Truly I say to you, no hand of a mortal human will fall upon me. Truly I say to you, Judas, those who offer sacrifices to Saklas and everything that's evil, but you will do more than all of them because you'll sacrifice the human who bears me. Your horn has already been raised. Your anger has been kindled. Your star has ascended and your heart has strayed. Truly I say to you, your last and the thrones of this realm have been defeated. The kings have grown weak. The angelic generations have grieved, and the evil they have sown is destroyed, and the ruler is wiped out. And then the fruit of the great generation of Adam will be exalted, because before heaven, earth, and the angels, that generation from the realms exists. Look, you've been told everything. Lift up your eyes and see the cloud with the light in it and the stars around it, and the star that leads the way is your star. Then Judas looked up and saw the luminous cloud, and he entered it. Those standing on the ground heard a voice from the cloud saying, all praise to this great generation. And Judas didn't see Jesus anymore. Immediately there was a disturbance among the Jews, more than usual. Their high priest grumbled because he'd gone into the guest room to pray, but some scribes were there watching closely so they could arrest him during his prayer, because they were afraid of the people, since they all regarded him as a prophet. And they approached Judas and said to him, "What are you doing here? Aren't you Jesus' disciple?" And then he answered them as they wished. Then Judas received some money and handed him over to them. This special series is provided to the public by Amun-Ra University. It is read and voiced by Shakim Ra. Secrets from the Tombs. The Pyramid of Unas. Unas, also spelled Unis, Wanes, was a pharaoh, the ninth and last ruler of the 5th dynasty of ancient Kemet during the Old Kingdom. Unas reigned for 15 to 30 years in the mid-24th century BC. Circa 2345 to 2315 BC, succeeding Jed Kare Assesi, who might have been his father.
Guess what happens?
Hold on, we got to add real quick. 1 second. There we go.
Little is known of Unas' activities during his reign, which was a time of economic decline. Egypt maintained trade relations with the Levantine coast in Nubia, and military action may have taken place in southern Canaan. The growth and decentralization of the administration in conjunction with the lessening of the king's power continued under Unas, ultimately contributing to the collapse of the Old Kingdom some 200 years later. Unas built a pyramid in Saqqara, the smallest of the royal pyramids completed during the Old Kingdom. The accompanying mortuary complex with its high and valley temples linked by a 750-meter-long causeway was lavishly decorated with painted reliefs whose quality and variety surpass the usual royal iconography. Furthermore, Unas was the first pharaoh to have the pyramid text carved and painted on the walls of the chambers of his pyramid, a major innovation that was followed by his successors until the first intermediate period, 2160 to 2050 BC. These texts identify the king with Ra and Osir, whose cult was on the rise in Unas' time and were meant to help the king reach the afterlife. Unas had several daughters and possibly one or two sons, who are believed to have predeceased him. Manetho, a 3rd century BC Egyptian priest of the Ptolemaic kingdom and author of the first history of Kemet, claims that with Unas' death, the 5th dynasty came to an end. Unas was succeeded by Teti, the first pharaoh of the 6th dynasty of ancient Kemet, possibly after a short crisis. However, the archaeological evidence suggests that the Egyptians at the time made no conscious break with the preceding dynasty, and the distinction between the 5th and 6th dynasties might be illusory. The funerary cult of Unas, established at his death, continued until the end of the Old Kingdom and may have survived during the chaotic First Intermediate period. The cult was still in existence or revived during the later Middle Kingdom, circa 2050 to 1650 BC. This did not prevent Amenemhat I and Senuseret I from partially dismantling the mortuary complex of Unas for its materials. In parallel to the official cult, Unas may have received popular veneration as a local god of Saqqara until as late as the late period, 664 to 332 BC, nearly 2,000 years after his death. Unas is well attested by historical sources with 3 ancient Egyptian king lists dating to the New Kingdom period mentioning him. He occupies the 33rd entry of the Abydos Kings list, which was written during the reign of Seti I, 1290 to 1279 BC. Unas' name is also present on the Saqqara tablet as the 32nd entry and on the Turin Canon, 3rd column, 25th row, both of which were written during the reign of Ramesses II, 1279 to 1213 BC. The Turin canon further credits Unas with 30 years of reign. These sources all place Unas as the ninth and final ruler of the 5th dynasty, succeeding Djedkare Assesi and preceding Teti I on the throne. This relative chronology is corroborated by archaeological evidence, for example, in the tomb of officials serving under these kings. The original Kemetic name in Medu Neter for the pyramid was Nefer Isut Unas, meaning beautiful are the places of Unas. The pyramid of Unas is part of a larger mortuary complex built around it. It was approached via an ancient lake on the shores of which Unas Valley Temple was located. At the end of the causeway was a large hall leading to a pillared open court surrounded by magazine chambers. This court led into the mortuary temple proper, which housed statues of the king and where the offerings to the deceased took place. This was immediately adjacent to the eastern side of the pyramid, which was surrounded by an enclosure wall defining the sacred space. At the southeast corner of the enclosure was a small satellite pyramid for the Ka of the king. The internal chambers of the pyramid were entered in 1881 by Gaston Maspero, who thus discovered the pyramid text. The main innovation of the Pyramid of Unas is the first appearance of the pyramid text, one, if not the oldest surviving religious text in the world. The religious texts of ancient Kemet have survived to this day. In doing so, Unas initiated a tradition that will be followed in the Pyramid of the Kings and Queens of the 6th to 8th dynasties until the end of the Old Kingdom, circa 200 years later. The profile of a pyramid and its causeway also reveals the morphology of phage lambda, which has an icosahedral head enclosed in a spear. The Egyptian pyramid with its triangular faces is similar to a phage capsid or head, and the causeway from the pyramid to the Valley Temple completes the comparison by depicting the phage tail. The essence of the deceased king resided within the pyramid so that it endured forever. Pyramid Text 600. In our model for verification, the essence of the deified king indicates the union of the sun god and deceased, or the insertion of final human elements into the phage DNA capsid, that is, the pyramid head. When a bacteriophage attaches to a host cell, its DNA is pumped out of the head, down the tail, and into the cell. The Pyramid of Unas, the Great Pyramid, and others were constructed with pyramidal head structure and causeway tails that are similar to phage morphology. Similarly, the Theban recension chapter 140 refers to Atum as the sunshine god rising in the sky. The mighty one appears, the horizon shines. Atum appears on the smell of his sensing. The sunshine god has risen in the sky. The mansion of the Pyramidion is in joy, and all its inmates are assembled.
All right, we got a ad break. 1 second, you guys. This passage equates the sun god Ra-Atum with the geometric shape of a pyramid, which is similar to phage lambda morphology. Further, the deceased states, I am he of the pyramidion. Coffin text 422. Both Geb, the earth, and Atum grant that a pyramid and temple be installed and enclosed for the deceased and his double. Pyramid text 534. Utterance 217 from the Unas pyramid text. Sarcophagus chamber, south wall. The king joins the sun god. Ra-Atum, this Unas comes to you, a spirit indestructible, who lays claim to the places of the four pillars. Your son comes to you. This Unas comes to you. May you cross the sky, united in the dark. May you rise in light land, the place in which you shine. Sap, Nebuchad, go, proclaim to Upper Kemet's gods and their spirits. This Unas comes, a spirit indestructible. If he wishes you to die, you will die. If he wishes you to live, you will live. Ra-Atum, this Unas comes to you, a spirit indestructible, who lays claim to the place of the four pillars. Your son comes to you. This Unas comes to you. May you cross the sky, united in the dark. May you rise in light land, the place in which you shine. Aser, Aset, go proclaim to Lower Egypt's gods and their spirits. This Unas comes, a spirit indestructible, like the morning star above happy, whom the water spirits worship. Whom he wishes to live will live. Whom he wishes to die will die. Ra-Atum, this Unas comes to you, a spirit indestructible, who lays claim to the place of the four pillars. Your son comes to you. This Unas comes to you. May you cross the sky, united in the dark. May you rise in light land, the place in which you shine. Tehuti, go proclaim to the gods of the west and their spirits. This Unas comes, a spirit indestructible, decked above the neck as Anpu. Lord of the western height, he will count hearts, he will claim hearts. Whom he wishes to live will live. Whom he wishes to die will die. Ra-Atum, this Unas comes to you, a spirit indestructible, who lays claim to the place of the four pillars. Your son comes to you. This Unas comes to you. May you cross the sky, united in the dark. May you rise in light land, the place in which you shine. Heru, go, proclaim to the powers of the east and their spirits. This Unas comes,
A spirit indestructible, whom he wishes to live will live.
This game.
I shall make it reach. Then, day of pain, partial. In order to say their tongue is not partial, a payment. Their tongue is not partial. I opened my mouth to my Ba to answer what it had said. This is too great for me today. My Ba will not converse with me. It is too great for exaggeration. It is like deserting me. My Ba shall not go. It shall not attend to me in this, in my body with the net of cord. It shall not be able to flee on the day of pain. Look, my Ba misleads me. I do not listen to it. Drags me toward death before I come to it. Casts me on fire so as to burn me. It shall be near me on the day of pain. It shall stand on that side as does a falcon. It is he who comes forth. He has brought it himself. My Ba, too ignorant to steal pain in life, leads me toward death before I come to it. Sweeten the west for me. Is that difficult? Life is a passage. Trees fall. Tread on the evil. Put down my misery. Atahuti judge me, he who appeases the Necharu. May Kansu defend me, he who writes truly. May Ra hear my speech, he who calms the sunbark. May Istis defend me in the sacred hall, for my suffering is too heavy a burden to be borne by me. May it please the Necharu and repel my body's secret. Then my boss said to me, "Are you not a man? Are you not alive? What do you gain by complaining about life like a man of wealth?" I said, "I will not go as long as this is neglected. Surely, if you run away, you will not be cared for. Every criminal says, 'I shall seize you.' Though you are dead, your name lives. Yonder is the place of rest, the heart's goal. The west is a dwelling place, a voyage. If my Ba listens to me without malice, its heart in accord with me, it shall be happy. I shall make it reach the west, like one who is in his tomb, whose burial a survivor tends. I shall make a shelter over your corpse, so that you will make envious another Ba in weariness. I shall make a shelter, it shall not be freezing, so that you will make envious another Ba which is hot. I shall drink water at the pond over which I made shade, so that you will make envious another Ba that hungers. But if you lead me toward death in this manner, you will not find a place on which to rest in the west. Be patient, my Ba, my brother, until my heir comes, one who will make offerings, who will stand at the tomb on the day of burial, having prepared the bier of the graveyard." My Ba opened its mouth to me to answer what I had said. "If you think of burial, it is heartbreak. It is the gift of tears by a grieving a man. It is taking a man from his house, casting him on high ground. You will not go up to see the sun. Those who built in granite, who erected halls in excellent tombs of excellent construction, when the builders have become gods, their offering stones are desolate, as if they were the dead who died on the riverbank for lack of a survivor. The flood takes its toll, the sun also. The fishes at the water's edge talk to them. Listen to me. It is good for people to listen. Follow the feast day. Forget worry. A man plowed his plot. He loaded his harvest into a boat. He towed the freight. As his feast day approached, he saw rising the darkness of a north wind. Watching in the boat as the sun went down, he came out with his wife and children and found it on the lake, infested at night with crocodiles. When at last he sat down, he broke out saying, I do not weep for that mother, for whom there is no coming from the west for another being on earth. I grieve for her children, broken in the egg, who have seen the face of the crocodile before they have lived. A man asked for an early meal. His wife said, It is for supper. He went outdoors to a while. When he came back to the house, he was like another person. His wife beseeches him, and he does not listen to her. I opened my mouth to my bar to answer what it had said. Lo, my name reeks. Lo, more than carrion smell on summer days of burning sky. Lo, my name reeks. Lo, more than a catch of fish on fishing days of burning sky. Lo, my name reeks. Lo, more than ducks smell, more than reed coverts of waterfowl. Lo, my name reeks. Lo, more than fishermen smell, more than the marsh pools where they fish. Lo, my name reeks. Lo, more than crocodiles smell, more than a shore site full of crocodiles. Lo, my name reeks. Lo, more than that of a wife about whom lies are told to the husband. Lo, my name reeks. Lo, more than that of a sturdy child who is said to belong to one who rejects him. Lo, my name reeks. Lo, more than a king's town that utters sedition behind his back. To whom shall I speak today? Brothers are mean. The friends of today do not love. To whom shall I speak today? Hearts are greedy. Everyone robs his comrade's goods. To whom shall I speak today? Kindness has perished. Insolence assaults everyone. To whom shall I speak today? One is content with evil. Goodness is cast to the ground everywhere. To whom shall I speak today? He who should enrage men by his crimes, he makes everyone laugh at his evildoing. To whom shall I speak today? Men plunder. Everyone robs his comrade. To whom shall I speak today? Brothers are mean. One goes to strangers for affection. To whom shall I speak today? Faces are blank. Everyone turns his face from his brothers. To whom shall I speak today? Hearts are greedy. No man's heart can be relied on. To whom shall I speak today? None are righteous. The land is left to evildoers. To whom shall I speak today? One lacks an intimate. One resorts to an unknown to complain. To whom shall I speak today? No one is cheerful. He with whom one walked is no more. To whom shall I speak today? I am burdened with grief for lack of an intimate. To whom shall I speak today? Wrong roams the earth and ends not. Death is before me today, like a sick man's recovery, like going outdoors after confinement. Death is before me today, like the fragrance of myrrh, like sitting under sail on a breezy day. Death is before me today, like the fragrance of lotus, like sitting on the shore of drunkenness. Death is before me today, like a well-trodden way, like a man's coming home from warfare. Death is before me today, like the clearing of the sky, as when a man delivers what he ignored. Death is before me today, like a man's longing to see his home when he has spent many years in captivity. Truly, he who is yonder will be a living netcher, punishing the evildoer's crime. Truly, he who is yonder will stand in the sunbark, making its bounty flow to the temples. Truly, he who is yonder will be a wise man, not barred from appealing to Ra when he speaks. Then my boss said to me, Now throw complaints on the woodpile. You, my comrade, my brother, whether you offer on the brassiere, Whether you bear down on life, as you say, love me here, when you have set aside the West. But when it is wished that you attain the West, that your body joins the earth, I shall alight after you have become weary, and then we shall dwell together. It is finished from beginning to end, as it was found in writing.
Stop going down to the beer garden, drinking your stomach full of intoxicating beer, going on cutting the silly act.
Cantina chicken crispy taco isn't just a
Stop ordering hot liquids to drink to make yourself a worse fool. Stop taking your hard-earned dollars, wasting them up into liquor and beer that will turn you crazy and make you throw all of your money out into the streets and right back into the hand of the thief. Stop trying to buy expensive cars with only $50 a week income or $75 a week income, and the car note is $75 a month or $100 a month, and you don't make but $50 or $75 a week, and your house rent, your clothes, your food, your gas that you have to buy, which costs you 30 or 35 cents a gallon or more. You don't think of that. My friend, you are too extravagant with such little. You are like the book says, you are a prodigal son. Prodigal son means something that is extravagant and wasteful. We are too wasteful with nothing, no land whatsoever. You don't have no home here. Millions of us here don't even own enough land to produce enough food to feed us in peace. That's right. We don't own enough land to produce enough food to feed 17 million mouths with black eyed peas. And yet we are so rich that if we are given $75 a week or $50 a week, we can buy $5,000 Cadillacs and sleep in it at night. We are too rich. We are too wasteful. We are too ignorant.